For Hey, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Bamboo Ceiling. Um, as you guys already know, there's been a viral video going around about domestic violence, and the Hmong community has basically been like all up in arms about it, right? And so today we are going to be touching on the issue, and with that we have Kasi, who is someone that provides family services, and we feel like it would be disingenuous if we didn't have like female counterparts on this episode to touch on the issue at hand. So
So yeah,
yeah, go
what's
ahead.
the issue that happened
So
this week
basically
in the
that
Hmong
video,
community?
right? Everyone knows what happened. That video that's been going around with Newly when she went live. Um Unfortunately, it took her live video for us to have this conversation about domestic violence. And I think it kind of just took off and like went off into its own little thing.
Yeah, so like, if what if you didn't see the video? Explain to us what happened in the video. Like,
Yeah. For the ones that haven't seen it yet, so basically, her husband got drunk, came home, something happened, whatever wasn't caught on video. Doors were punched, holes in the walls and stuff like
eggs
that.
on
Right?
the floor.
Eggs on the floor, but supposedly those are from her kids. Uh,
we
I
can
gu- I- I
we
guess.
can already see your
Yeah.
bias.
right? No, but
Ketchup, eggs, everything. So when
Mhm.
so I got to this video late.
Yeah.
I remember your text, early in the week,
Yeah.
and not as so involved in the Hmong community. I got to this video late, but what I saw was she was filming herself on live. And then she had a couple uncles over, or maybe one, and her husband was probably drunk at that time, but she was just saying, hey, every time he's drunk he comes home and he would beat me up. And then she would show the evidence of what happens in the house. So all these holes in the wall, hole in the door. And so it seems like there's a lot of just violence or something that happens in the home. So that's kind of like your initial just interpretation that there's a lot of anger, violence in the home. And so as she was showing this, all I heard in the background was the uncle egging the husband on, and I think they might have been drunk or drinking. You're not sure, but the uncle's egging him on to beat her up. Maybe because and in my way, I'm interpreting that as, hey, like, are you man enough? Like, if you're man enough, just beat her up because she's showing this to the world, right? That's just my initial impression. And then all you heard was the camera or the phone fell down or something. It blacked out, but you hear like her screaming in the background, like it's like she's getting whooped or something. And then the husband comes on the camera and turns it off. And so that's kind of the initial
Right.
impression of what's going on with
Yeah.
the video that's been going on. So
Duck, what was, because like, yeah, I didn't see it either until you
Uh-huh.
text us. What was your initial like thought right after you saw the video?
they say, initially I was just like, dude, it's kind of messed up. Like,
Mhm.
I was actually pretty triggered by it too. Like, I was actually kind of pissed off for the girl. And then as you started, what got to me was actually the comments. It wasn't necessarily the video, because it took on its own entity. Like, it just kind of blew up. But my initial reaction to the video, it was that like, yeah, it's pretty messed up.
the funny thing was, like I saw it on a post, her actual post or a friend's post, and it's like trigger warning, right?
Mhm.
And then I looked at it, and for me, when I see that, I'll try to like watch something else and that as well, so I'm not focused on it,
Right.
right? So I was kind of like just cautious watching it, but when I watch it, I wasn't that triggered. So here's the thing: I think I work with people, right, in the community, in where it's violence too, not, and I feel like, wow, I'm kind of numb to this stuff because I see this
Mhm.
with the people that I work every day with, and I wasn't, to be honest and fair to like myself, I wasn't as triggered.
Mhm.
And not saying that I don't have empathy for her, because that's legit. Like, she's probably getting whooped by her husband, but I felt a little bit numb, and I didn't feel guilty about feeling numb. It was just like, wow, like I'm so immune or used to this kind of situation with the work that I do. And so, and Sakasi, talk us like,
Well, first of all, did you guys see the video? And kind of your reaction
Yeah.
too, you know.
Yeah, so I did watch the video yesterday to kind of prepare for the podcast,
Yeah.
but my initial thought about it was that I was concerned about the video, especially at the end when the video blacked out and you hear her crying and then a man shows up at the end and the video goes off.
husband.
I wasn't sure if that was a husband
That was
or
her
not.
husband.
Okay. I was really concerned because like to me being a woman filled in a room with men, like
Yeah.
she's very she's very vulnerable. She has
Mhm.
nobody. Sounds like they were diminishing the situation and her like what she was saying was pretty genuine, you know. She sounded genuine, her voice was genuine, and the cry at the end sounded genuine. I was really scared for her, so I can see why like some of the comments were like call the police, right? Because you wouldn't know, like I don't even know, like has she posted something recently? Is she okay?
I don't think she's came out with anything yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was my initial like thought, like, oh my gosh, my heart broke for her. I'm really, really scared. I hope she's okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, I didn't see it until my brother sent something. He was trying to be, sent me something about it. But when I first saw it, I saw it to the part where she started with the door, and then there were eggs on the floor, and then I saw there was three guys in the room, and then after that, I saw the uncle, I guess it was, trying to like you said, trying to egg him on. And then after that, I just turned it off because that triggered me, because I guess it's really, for me, it's really annoying to have other, like if you like she's trying to call them to help her out, right? But then they come there and try to like egg him on and not even trying to help the situation. So to me, that was really like annoying in a sense, and so I just turned it off after that. So I didn't know what happened after that, but I don't know, like maybe it's the it probably triggered a memory or something. I don't know, but seeing that in the Hmong culture, seeing that it's okay, and then seeing it live, and then just my perspective on that as well.
I think
crazy.
like it hits home, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like police shooting, right? You know how like the black community has always been screaming they're attacking us, they're killing us. But then it took like a video, right? Like
Right.
seeing a video versus hearing stories, like it hits different, right? So
Right.
then seeing that video, I don't know, it just like for me, I think
It's
like
too close.
it's
to
too
home.
close. Yeah, like we all have like experiences with that, you know.
But the funny thing was, she's actually a Hmong actress.
Yeah, she's
just
well known too,
So
yeah.
it took a Hmong actress,
Yeah.
right? A situation that was the elite of the elites in the Hmong
Right.
world to actually stir up a little awareness, right? So then have we as a community overlooked everything else or
Right.
everybody else when their voices or their lives didn't matter,
Right.
and it took the best of the best for our world to be shaken and see that this is an issue in our community, and how do we move forward in this. And so, like Kasi, like in your experience working with families, like do you see this as a common or a common
occurrence
occurrence with the work that you do, or do you feel like this is more rare, few and far in between, or how does that look as you deal with families that may struggle being healthy on a daily basis?
Yeah. Well, I think domestic violence itself generally is common, right? I think the research says 1 out of 4 women, right, encounter domestic violence. And so I think with the families I work with, or even in general, globally, everybody experiences domestic violence, right? Not everybody, but I mean, like, generally, there's domestic violence around the world that occurs. So it's a big concern, right? Domestic violence is a concern because although it may not seem like Nuli's video, like you don't see it happening, right? And the reason I was really scared after the video blacked out was because domestic violence can actually kill people, right? People actually die from it. And, you know, I take that seriously.
Yeah.
Any type of signs that you see, you know, you want to be cautious and serious, like take it seriously. But I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
It's just
that's
kinda
good.
rambling.
I think that reminds me of this. Domestic violence is the prerequisite to the murder suicide that we deal with in our community. Because like what you're saying, I didn't even think of or it triggers the murder suicide. And that's why, you know, there were some comments I remember in this the Nuli situation where like, hey, if he can't have her, she can't, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna kill, you know what I mean? That's the mentality among people default to when, you know, their life is in shambles. And so
Some among people, right?
yeah, some among
Yeah.
people.
Stop making blanket statements. You know, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I'm just teasing.
Some
it.
among
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, violence.
So there's no like there's no numbers that show like in the Hmong community it happens more than in the, you know, is it pretty like
Is it unique just to Hmong
yeah
people?
yeah
Or other races
Oh.
go through the same
Oh
thing too?
no. Yeah, I work with families with different backgrounds, and it happens to different type of families.
So it's not just Hmong.
Well, it's just I think it's common in the
Yeah,
Hmong
yeah.
community because of our culture and
Yeah.
our value and our
The
system.
traditions, yep.
Yeah, and we know people who go through it, and we're Hmong, but it does happen to other race, other ethnicities, you know, other people.
yeah.
Growing up, I still feel like I'm superior to women because of the values that I was brought up in, right? And even though I feel that, right, that comes from just seeing and being role model that I do have a one up on women, even though now I am trying to like break away from that. And so for me, it's kind of like, how do I bring equality or fairness or equity to the Hmong ladies in our community, as I'm trying to like, you know, kind of deconstruct and like strip that from my belief system and my value system, because I do know that I'm flawed and I don't truly value Hmong women as they should be and how they want to see themselves, because as you can see, this is common in our community as well. And so how do we as Hmong men help be allies in that sense for Hmong ladies, you know,
Yeah.
in times like this?
Well, just to touch base on what you were saying too, right? You were kind of like brought up, right, to be more superior in a sense, right? And I feel like Maya and I, we can talk about like, not sexism in a way, but
You guys
like,
had to cook every day.
yeah, like the equality that we got. Like
Yeah.
our brothers got to go out, no chores, do anything they want, sleep over at the cousin's house. But for the girls, we had so much
Yeah, a little bit,
responsibility.
yeah.
Oh, we have so much responsibility that I feel that, like, as you can see now, it appears, I don't know the research, that women tend to be more successful than
Yeah.
men, right?
We're just talking about that. Yeah.
Because we have these responsibility, and we're driven. Not saying that Hmong men are not, but I'm just saying
You're
like
saying Hmong men are low life basement
no, there
dweller game players.
there are
No,
a lot. I did
That's a
not
good
say
point.
that.
I see
Don't put
that.
it
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
But there are not a lot of. I mean, I know a lot of Hmong men who are very successful, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like in general, like it's so common that women have more responsibility,
Yeah.
or girls are brought up to do more than the boys in sense of responsibility. So then you kind of see like, and they're treated better, right? But however, girls are still, although we work really hard, we still don't have that same fairness. And you know, culturally, because the sons are gonna bring more descendants of, you know, their lineage, and the women are gonna marry off whatever, right? But in a sense to that, that's why Hmong men sometimes, because they're brought up that way, they feel more superior. And I like how you want to make that change.
I feel like I don't feel that, right? But I know subconsciously it comes out, because like when our friends will have like a thingy, and my friends, their wives are great, right? And whenever we go eat at the dinner table, I'm always like, whoa, 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 men eat first, right? Like kiddingly around, you know? So like subconsciously those things come out. Like I never think about that, right? I never think, hey, like I'm a man, so I have more rights than you, or whatever, right? But then subconsciously it comes out that way. So our the way we were raised kind of like instills that into some of us.
I mean,
yes.
you go to any like gatherings, any like graduation parties,
Yeah.
you know, that or funerals or
Most
anything.
men are sitting on the table.
Yeah,
and-
they're just chilling, drinking,
eating
and then
first
the
and-
women are cooking. But
Yeah.
like, I do see that we are changing too. Like my generation, like we like sometimes I do stuff and my wife and them are just chilling, and the guys are actually the one doing all the work.
Mm.
And so, you know, it kind of depends. Like I feel bad for like the individuals that grew up in that like part of that segment of like Hmong
The
people,
more
right? Where
traditional.
it's very super traditional, yeah, and that's all they see. And then I can see why they have that sentiment of like you know, being against like traditions and culture, because that's all they saw. You know, they never got to see the other side where the guys do cook, the guys do eat with the women.
Yeah. I think so like everybody's been saying we got to do better, right? A new slogan for everybody. How do we do better as a community, as guys and girls, men and ladies in this situation? How do we do better? Like, where do we start?
To answer you, I think just acknowledging it, and talking about it like we're doing now, I think that's a start. And if you see it or you hear it and you know, just doing something about it, that's already a start. That's already helping, you know. Like when I was younger, you know, that hits home, like Doug says, you know, like it hits home. I've seen that happen in our house, and if there was just a helping hand,
Someone to stand up,
someone
right?
just to stand up and be like, hey, that's not right, like you shouldn't do that, or we can help you if, you know, like if
In your situation, right? Was there adults that were around that either have seen it or had an inkling that it was happening in your household? Like, was there that adult there, like outside of your?
when a situation would come up, there wasn't an adult in there,
Okay.
but they would hear about it. I
Sure.
mean, we were close, so and as little kids, you see it and you tend to talk about it, right? Like you don't, like for little kids, they don't really hold secrets. They say what they see, you know. So I remember I would say things to uncles or aunts or cousins,
Yeah.
and then they would be like, oh my gosh, seriously, like why, you know. But then that was it, you know.
Yeah.
Nothing happened after that.
That's
So
about
then-
as far as it went. Huh?
yeah, so then you just become numb to it, like you said, you know, like then
It becomes
then you think-
normal,
yeah.
yeah.
It becomes a normal thing, like, oh, it's okay, then I guess that's how the culture is, so you just deal with it,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, talk with us talking about it for men, if they just talk about it, or if they are willing to advocate for things like that, you know, and help, you know,
I feel like
or just
that's where this whole conversation of domestic violence like turns for the worse, right? Because there are a lot of guys out there, okay? There are a lot of Hmong dudes that are like against domestic violence, and there are a lot of Hmong dudes that stand out and stand up, right? Like for us, like if I see any one of my friends like about to like cock their fist and dollar the wife, I definitely would jump in and help him out. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would.
I was like, no.
No, I would like I wouldn't let him. Like I was, you know, and I would talk to him, you know, like not just egg him on, like, but then anytime because I could see like just reading the comments and kind of gauging where like the community is at. Like there's two sides to the battle now, where it's like men versus women. Like the women, they feel like the guys, we don't speak out enough and we're not for them, and then a lot of the guys are triggered because when you make a blanket statement like, hey, all Hmong men need to do better, then it takes away from like the ones like us that
Yeah.
wife, huh?
I think, and it goes unseen, right? I
Mhm.
think a lot of the times so with men, right, we do have a bro code where we back each other up on a lot of things, right? And the truth is, it's hard to sometimes break that bro code, right? But I think for domestic violence, we do that a lot. It's just behind the scenes. Like I will I will tell my dude, hey, chill out, right? Like, but behind the scenes, it's never seen. It's never like, or when he's telling me about he's mad at his wife or whatever, and he gets too heated, and you will tell him to chill out, right?
Right.
And I think that all of that goes behind the scenes, and it's hard to do that as a bro because they're gonna take it as, some people will take it as, you're not with me, you're against me, right?
Yeah.
But
you're
they
not
don't
my
see
son.
it as like, bro, I love you, I don't want you to walk down that road, right? So it's hard to break that code, but I think the dudes that do break that code, we do it behind the scenes, right? So no one really sees it. It's not recorded
Right.
on camera and then Facebook Live it, So
And the root of that goes back to the shame and the face, right? Where I think we're so tied down
it is,
to
yeah.
shame and face, and that's something that holds us down as a community. I have seen people change, where I think there is a bro code, but I also see people change where they have the courage to be like, that's not cool, yo. Like,
Yeah.
if we gonna be together, like,
Yeah.
and do life together, like, this gotta change. So I've seen glimpses of change of what Duck is saying, but I feel like that's few and far between, as we're trying to, like, that's a kind of like a stronghold in our community where it's our face, and shame is something that we carry heavily if we feel it, right? And
Yeah,
I think
sure,
we need to
yeah.
break away from that.
Yeah.
I think just going back to like the ratio, because men can be victims too.
Yeah.
Can
I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
Duck's thing before
Yeah, go
we
ahead.
go to
Yeah.
Go for it.
So just to add to is, I get what you're saying, that the women are saying all among men
Yeah.
need to do better.
Here we go. Here we
let-
go, guys.
Let's go.
No, it's not.
I want to hear
Yeah.
It's
let's
just
go.
let the women have their
Their time.
feelings.
Yeah.
Let them express their feelings, because it's come from a history of
oppression.
oppression of
Right.
Hmong men, and
Yeah.
the pride,
Yeah.
and also the Hmong cultural system of our values. Like, it's better to have a male head in your family, so deal with it, and your life will be better, right? So or you'll have the respect and support you need for your life, if you have a male, even if he's abusing you. So let the woman express their feelings, and then support them this, and then also be an example for the younger folks, and even for the older folks, and show them what it's like to how to treat women, and what a healthy relationship looks like.
This is what I like about having conversations, because I've never heard it from that perspective, right? So we can't have a conversation if we're too far extreme, where immediately as a guy I'm already bullshit, women hit guys too, right? And then from the women's perspective, anytime a guy asks a question, instead of answering me like you did, in a cordial way, they go, "Oh, you're victim shaming. Oh, you're
Yeah.
victim."
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
social media.
You can't ask
Yeah,
a question.
Right. You can't ask any questions. There's absolute, you can't.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel like this podcast, this certain episode is going to be very meaningful, because I think not only are we talking about it, but we're showing examples of how to talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't slap me in my face, and, that's good. I mean,
Respect mercy.
She might have wanted it.
thought about it. I know. No, but that's good. I see having conversation. I think that's a start.
Yeah, it's just in a wife or husband relationship, right? You have to communicate to get on each other's understanding, because everybody comes from different history and life, that when you communicate, like you say, that helps lessen the load or the pain or the triggers that people have experienced.
I think what I'm seeing is, man, I would kind of wish sometimes I grew up a Hmong girl in this generation, because there's the byproduct of that is you guys are so resilient. And as you're saying, there's more Hmong in my mind, and what I see in my network, there's more Hmong girl entrepreneurs than guys, because of the oppression, and in that oppression, there's so much resilience that it kind of flows to every area of their lives, and you begin to see this. I'm like, dang, that a lot of these Hmong girls, they're so determined and they're so resilient, but it's because they haven't had a voice, right? And they've had to work hard and had to work behind the scenes, and now that translates to every area So for me, I was like, dang, I would have been a CEO by this time if I grew up a Hmong girl. I'm just
So you're
saying.
saying you should have did more dishes, and your
I
dad
should
should
have. I
have
should have cooked, did more dishes.
I,
You know.
I do want to add that there are some Hmong women who are still going through that, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Not to
some kids.
overlook. Yeah.
Right. So even if there are Hmong women who are not CEOs, it doesn't mean that they didn't go through oppression or they didn't go through
They're
none.
lesser,
Right? It's just
Yeah.
there are also barriers to
Yeah.
to getting up there as well as
Yeah.
a female and a female minority.
Do you feel like for the ladies that worked, if they see a silver lining in this, it worked for their advantage being oppressed in our community?
Wait. Ask
So
that
so
question.
yeah, sorry, I'm going deep here. So did you feel like because our patriarchy system, right, that males are head of the household and every lady is above every boy or guy in our household, that oppression growing up with that system, right? Do you felt like that worked for the ladies' advantage growing up because now they work so much more harder?
I wouldn't say that for everybody because I
Okay.
feel like although it's common, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there are some. I mean, like there are some families that actually have a healthy family system
Yeah.
growing up, even with the male as the head of the
Yeah.
household. There are healthy families, and with healthy families come support and the resources they need to get to where they could be, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that for everybody. Does that answer the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
I tend to believe that the scars are all the same. So like it's always gonna be a negative effect, right? But it's just how the person redeems it. Right? I see it that way, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the scars are always the same, like from either being oppressed or involved in domestic violence. Like they come out differently, right? Every person that scar comes out differently, but I think it's always a negative, and it's just how they redeem it.
And just to add to that, it's the way our brain works, right? It's like our brain it's always rewiring, right? So that means like even if you feel as if you're stuck or nothing can get better or you've been through this abuse and you're stuck there, right? Our brain is always rewiring. So education, right? Support, getting the services and things you need to kind of fix not really fix, but to kind of I don't know how you explain it, but when you have the support in place, right, it can help you to be more successful in life.
Yeah.
Just to go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm sure that they would rather not have been,
In that
oppressed
situation.
in that situation. I'm sure they would have loved to like voice their opinions, like, "Oh, you are not making my brother do it, so why are you making me do it?" Like,
Have a right to do
have a right to go out too, or have a right to do things too. But I'm sure with the oppression, it made them who they are today. So, yeah, it sucked to have that when you were younger and like had to deal with all that from your parents.
Yeah.
But then that made you who
Yeah.
that you are today. So
And the
you know,
process didn't
the
have to
process-
look like
right,
that.
exactly. Like I would have loved some help along the way, but thanks. I mean, I still made it, because God's grace and
Yeah.
everything, that you
So
can do.
going back to so just kind of bringing everything back to domestic violence again, right? You and I, we both have kids, right? And we both have boys. And a reoccurring theme that I keep hearing too is, oh, why don't you just raise your son not to hit a woman, right? Why don't you just teach a boy not to hit a woman? But then, like, because I have a daughter too, and like I feel like that would be irresponsible of me as a parent to just teach my boys that. Like I'm teaching my daughter that too, right? That hey, you just don't touch anyone in general. But you just don't hit people, right? And it's because you're a girl, you're not gonna get a pass. And I know this is gonna be like a very unpopular I wouldn't say opinion, but I'm speaking out for like a broad statement, right? This isn't my opinion, so don't come at me. But like it goes both ways, right? Like don't hit people. Like raise both your sons and your daughters to not hit people because, like we said, domestic violence happens for both men and women, right? Both sexes go through it. Um, yeah. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah. So
Let me have it.
no, so you're right. You should teach your children,
Mhm.
right? What it's like to have a healthy relationship. So not only verbally, but kids learn best through example,
Mhm.
right? And so you can teach them and lecture them all you want, but it really comes to show about what your relationship is with your spouse, who they're surrounded
Mhm.
by, and who they see, right? And so kids learn more when they see it, right, in their surroundings. So it's not just educating the kids, but maybe educating the community they're in,
Mhm.
so that they also can show, your kid who they're surrounded by what it's like to, how it's like to treat your partner,
Mhm.
and what it sounds like, and
So much for the saying that do as I say, not as I do.
Right. Lead by example. Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I feel like it's not like it's gonna take more than just a bunch of dudes standing up picketing with our signs protesting domestic violence. Like we can march all we want, but it's gonna take a lot more than that, right?
Yeah, but then
Mhm.
it starts with someone, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then you're making it okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's what sort of would help with
Yeah.
the situation.
Because I would love to know, like kind of going back to reiterating Goo's question too, right? Like how can we help? Like how can
Yeah.
we help? Like I think guys want to help, but I think they just don't know how to go about asking that question. Like what can we do?
Ask that
Ask, right? Just
question.
ask questions
Yes.
again.
That's the best thing to do
Mhm.
for someone who you even know who's going through domestic
Mhm.
violence, who's a victim of it, is how can I help, right? Because you don't know their situation, and every situation is different. So instead of assuming that this is what's happening, right? Like you said, men
Mhm.
are also victim of domestic violence. The best thing to do is help, and then also ask them how you can ask them how you can help them, and then also, you know, come up with a safety plan, right?
Mhm.
To figure out what these warning signs are and what they can do when they see these red flags within the relationship.
Because I feel like it's so easy for people in general to point the finger and like speak on other people's, like say for this newly video, going back to this newly video, when we saw it, like we all chimed in, everybody, I'm guilty, I chimed in a lot, like everybody chimed in, right? Everybody's like calling dude out, but then like when it comes to your immediate family, your auntie, your uncle, your nya, your brother, then people tend not to get as involved because of you know what I mean? Like
Are you
because
talking about some Hmong influencer?
no, not calling out anyone. No, I'm just saying like it's so like personal credibility, right? Like personal accountability. Like it's so easy for us to chime in on like because we're not involved with them. Like we can chime all in all we want, and then like tomorrow it's next week it's a new day. Whatever happens to newly happens to newly,
Yeah.
but we did our part,
But
like,
I think that's just human nature in general, because everybody has dirty laundry, right? That's why we need grace for everybody, because we know if our dirty laundry is aired out there, man,
Right.
it's ugly, right? But in that, right, because we're not so emotionally invested and attached to this one person, right? It's easy just to say something and give your opinion,
Mhm.
and then you're not emotionally attached, and that's okay. You can go on your day without, but this person has to live their life,
Yeah.
right? And the people around them have to live that life, so they suffer the repercussions and the consequences of just the hate and the picketing, when their life is thrown out for the public to see. And so, like, yeah, I think that's human nature, because it's easier for us to feel good,
right.
when people are actually kicked, right,
Yeah.
and stepped on, because we feel better as individuals
Yeah.
because of our own insecurities. And I think that's kind of
Yeah.
just human nature in general. And what social media does is it highlights that even more, and then the insecurities come out, and it's hard for us not to say something, because we don't have to be emotionally invested, because we don't know those people like that.
But I see where Duck's saying, like, for all the people that are speaking against domestic violence, right? You better on social media. You
Same
better
energy,
bring that
yeah.
same
Energy
energy
to
in
your life.
in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
far too often, right? Like all the I yeah, I'll say it. A lot of I see a lot of females like like commenting that, and they're all for it, like 100%, right? And then when it comes to their brothers' wives, they don't speak out for them. You know, like I
Yeah.
like the hypocrisy in that. You know,
Yeah.
like sure, you got your 15 minutes of fame commenting on Facebook and
Yeah.
you know, saying that you care, which I'm sure you do, but I want you to be accountable for your immediate family too,
Yeah.
because far too often I see that when it comes to family issues like that, it gets swept under the rug.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, that's just my brother and his wife.
But
Oh, they're in.
you're pretty much
Mhm.
talking about the Karens of the world, though.
Right.
It's like, I think I want to say in it, but I
Right.
don't want to invest my life to doing something about it because I'm scared of that, you know? And it's like, I think it needs to
Mhm.
translate. Let's be real, right?
Right.
It needs to translate to the areas that impact every area of your life. And not just social media and jumping on the bandwagon so that you feel good that you're with the masses, you're with the crowd. It needs to translate to the people that you do know and not perpetuating like our bro code, right? And stepping in that and be like, hey, pushing back, like, yo, I don't think that's cool. I think we need to talk about this or
Right.
figure this out. It takes, because there is a lot of guys caught in the middle of the bro code.
Mhm.
How do we help? By us not perpetuating and pushing back. It's uncomfortable to push back, right?
Right.
But I think it starts from just courageous individuals, like what Kasi's saying, being advocate, and what Mayo's saying, to push back a little
Mhm.
in that sense, because it's uncomfortable when it's about us.
Yeah, no,
And-
I mean, like, what I think, yeah, I see what you're saying, but what I meant is like more geared towards like just anybody, not both
Yeah.
men and women that
Yeah.
are sharing that sentiment, because like far too often, like if you've been around the Hmong community and you've been to like a lot of these like domestic talks, right? You know how like say for my like you gave an example of like, okay, your parents fight, like back, I'll use my parents, right? And when they get into arguments and fights, then we'd call Guti, you know.
Does that still happen?
And they still do. So like Guti would come.
especially for the Hmong Ta,
So yeah, but like in general, because like
them traditional Hmong Ta folks,
you
man.
know it. No, so like that uncle from Newly's uncle, I'm sure that's not her real uncle. It's Hmong uncle. You know, we call everybody uncle. Like
Yeah.
everybody's kid calls everybody uncle, and I'm willing to bet that that's not her real uncle. It's just a Hmong uncle. But like, you know, so to get to my point, we get to these meetings and then and then their wives will come too, right? So Apple and I, we were talking about this earlier, that then a lot of times I hear the wives saying that 我先得 too. 我先得, you know, like, oh, like they say stuff like that, right? But then, but we gotta hold these people accountable too, you know, not just the elderly Hmong dudes, but because I'm speaking, I feel like I would not be doing like, it's a disservice to this podcast if I don't speak on that too.
I think it's like it goes back to the cultural
Mhm.
practice that we do, right? Other than men being the head of the household, there's also the like I can see other
Mhm.
men's wives telling the wife to just because the culture says
Yeah, to oof.
keep a male
Yeah.
in the household. And then there's also the family comes first, right? So when a when a Hmong woman marries a Hmong man, right, she goes into his clan, his side, right? So most of the time they're protecting him, right, because it's their people, right? So then sometimes there's that bias too,
Right.
So you really do need like a neutral party to really help with the situation, because it gets difficult because family first, like the niece, right?
Yeah.
That responded to Newly, you know, like it's her uncle, right? So maybe she does know the situation, and maybe Newly is like that. Maybe she did ruin the family, like she had mentioned. But the thing is, she's the niece, right? So, and she fully is only talking about what she heard, right? She wasn't there at that moment, right? So she doesn't know it either. So like when you see a relative defending another relative that's on his side, then things sort of is bias in that.
Right.
in that
It gets
way,
really murky.
because
But
it's
I
family
think
to family,
I think the hero out of all like this whole thing, and like people should model after, is actually the uncle's daughter. So the uncle in Newly's video, he was getting a lot of flack for doing what he did, right? And then his daughter actually called him out and held him accountable online, and you know what I mean. Like it
So
takes a
what
lot.
happened? Tell us the
Yeah.
story, because
Okay.
I don't know behind the scenes. And
Yeah, so after all this back and forth, like Newly's the niece, right? The niece or whatever. Her husband's niece. They came out and like told her part of the story, and then the uncle that egged him to down to the wife, huh? That dude, and his daughter called him out, and like I feel like she's the missing link. Like she's doing what she did. That takes a lot of courage, right? Like, calling out your dad and calling on him on his BS. That's the example that I want to see more.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people like can talk the talk, but when it comes to their families, then all of a sudden they go into hiding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kasi, you help families go through these things. What are some resources that we can give to anyone that's viewing and they have questions or
Yeah.
they're in that situation?
I think we kind of talked about it
Yeah.
in mixed with our conversation, but like I think if you know someone who's being abused or in a domestic violence situation, the best thing to do is ask for help, right? Or like in the Newly video situation, if you knew Newly, right, and you knew where she lived and things like that,
Yeah.
and you can call the cops to do a welfare check on them just to make sure she's okay, that she's still okay.
Yeah.
Or I mean, like sometimes if it's not an emergency situation, best thing to do is to ask her or him how you can help them, because sometimes calling police can put them in a dangerous situation too.
Sure.
I guess another thing is, if you are someone, right, who is a victim of domestic violence, there's a lot of resources out there to help you. If you're in Minnesota, there's a resource called Day One Services. And so you could Google it, or you could call. Maybe at the end of this podcast, you guys can put a link of a bunch of phone numbers
we will. Yeah.
and domestic violence places they could call to feel safe. If they're not sure that they're in a domestic violence situation, they could call to ask for tips or advice. I mean, sometimes victims don't know they're victims because they've been brought up,
Oh yeah, that's
and
true.
their history, so they think it's normal.
Yeah.
So it's always good to ask for help.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, Kasi and Mai, for hopping on to help us out, right? Because I feel like it wouldn't be right if we just three dudes talk about domestic violence and we didn't get to hear it from like a female's perspective.